Okay, in this video we're discussing the issues of substance abuse in professional sport. Wow, where do I begin? It's not. This is not a new thing. This is an ongoing issue that's been ongoing for 40, 50 plus years, with high-profile sports stars having problems with alcohol, and drugs, be it prescription or illicit. And we're not even discussing performance enhancing like steroids. We are talking actual substance abuse. Now, alcohol and prescription meds are legal. The prescription medication argument, we're having the argument about using CBD products for pain relief rather than prescription meds that become highly addictive. And this is something the NHL is looking into. We know that players like Derek Boogaard died partly as a result of a prescription medication overdose with alcohol. Rick Ripon, his mental health, and Wade Belak, two other NHL players, died roughly at the same time. All contemporaries, all played in the league at the same time. All died very, very young. And prescription medication was part of the problem, and basically been overprescribed them and not properly supervised taking them. Alcohol is another massive issue. We can go back as far back as George Best. And if you're not familiar with football or soccer, so if you're a North American and you're not really a soccer fan, he played in the US in the early 80s, and he was already a full-blown alcoholic. He died before the age of 60. Diego Maradona and Paul Gascoigne, well known for their off-field antics when they were playing and post-retirement to do with subscription medication, alcohol and drug misuse. Really well known they are. I mean, Diego Maradona failed that drugs test at World Cup 94. Paul Gascoigne, the famous tequila celebration Euro 96 relating to an England tour in Hong Kong, that dentist chair. So sport back in the 70s, 80s and 90s was less professional than it is now. That's a given. But the fact that right now in the last decade, we've had the Bath Rugby Club cocaine scandal, where Matt Stevens was the player really thrown under the bus there. We've had Zach Hardacre, Ranky Chase, Sean Kennydale, and a whole host of others, Jesse Bromwich, Kevin Proctor, all the cocaine issues with the NRL in 2017 that really blew up all at the same weekend, all at the same time. And the Zach Hardacre, Ranky Chase, that same season in the Super League, where they were failing drugs tests, and they weren't the only ones. We've seen Evgeny Kuznetsov in the NHL at the World Championship Ice Hockey 9 months ago fail a test in competition, but it was sort of hushed up until it came out in pre-season just before the NHL season started. Now the IIHF banned him for 4 years from international competition. That includes the Olympics, should the NHL relent on the Winter Olympics ban with the IOC and allow NHL players to compete, which is a IIHF sanctioned event. We've seen a whole host of players at various points, high profile and lower profile, lower level players, have issues with alcohol and prescription painkillers. Derek Boogaard in the NHL lost his life because of prescription painkiller overdose, and he wasn't properly supervised. Rick Ripon and Wade Belak also had issues in their careers with prescription medication, and again, their teams in the NHL not properly supervising the prescriptions and how much they were taking. Hence why the NHL is now looking at CBD products for pain relief. There's a big issue with substance abuse in the NHL. We know this. This goes back to the 80s. The Edmonton Oilers, the Detroit Red Wings. We know players like Grant Fuhr came out with a drug problem, were thrown under the bus. Bob Probert went to prison for his cocaine use. So it's not a new thing. And the fact that even now players like Zach Hardacre have been caught and Evgeny Kuznetsov have been caught with cocaine in their system is really worrying. That it's not just a thing that happened in the 70s, 80s and 90s. It is a massive issue now. The amount of players and high profile athletes who are abusing prescription meds and abusing alcohol and drugs, illicit drugs, is a thing. And I do believe the sporting authorities, nationally and globally, are failing. They are failing miserably. The Ben Cousins situation in the AFL about a decade ago, when it all, he battled to get back into the AFL. He had 2 decades of rampant alcohol and drug misuse, and he never failed a test, which highlights the failure of domestic leagues and international sporting organisations to properly regulate what was going on. And the AFL made it its mission to kick him out of the game for life, and they failed because he got back into the sport for a while, had some redemption. But since he's retired again, he's gone off the rails. And this is where professional sport does fail occasionally, is when players do retire. A lot of them don't have a career lined up post-sport. A lot of them retire out of the sport and end up off the rails. And Tyson Fury is another example of a high-profile sports star publicly admitting, he never failed a test, but he publicly admitted, I have a drug problem. publicly, was thrown under the bus, was banned for 2 years, was thrown under the bus. So when it comes out, the sport is highly embarrassed, whatever sport it is, and they tend to make an example of that individual or team. So the Bath Rugby Union scandal with the cocaine, where they make an example of these people. I'm not naive to think that it isn't happening across the board. It's not just these high-profile incidents with players. I think it's far more widespread. We know it's far more widespread, and gambling's another issue that we haven't even touched on. So player welfare is a problem, and a lot of these sports stars get a lot of money very, very young, and their careers are very, very short, and they're not necessarily well advised about post-career things like that. Cricket's got an issue with alcohol. Rugby league's got an issue with alcohol. These are well-known things, and these issues aren't going away. And the amount of players who, off the record, have admitted they're, in a locker room, a percentage of players in that team will be misusing drugs or alcohol or painkillers. Off the record. Officially, the numbers are very, very low of those who get caught, but unofficially, there are a lot seeking treatment. Now, some leagues have a 3-strike policy. They keep it hushed up. They allow the player to get treatment. Other sports seem to like to throw players under the bus. So what do? I think we need to have a frank discussion as a society, let alone as sports fans and those who invest in sport. But yeah, there is a massive problem, and it's not going away. And I don't think professional sporting bodies, be it nationally or internationally, are doing enough to assist those with abuse problems of substances. I don't think they do enough. And player welfare at times in some leagues is not taken seriously enough, I don't think. We've discussed the CTE lawsuit. We've discussed, player welfare when players are clearly playing when they're not fully fit, and it is a debate about a whole variety of things. But I think professional sport needs to own up to the fact that it's not doing enough to make sure that their commodities, their players, their superstars are looked after. Just look at Antonio Brown. What's happened with him? He's now facing criminal charges for a variety of offences. His behaviour has become very, very bizarre, and it's been regularly talked about on this channel. The issues with Antonio Brown over the last 18 months. That's another example of someone who's gone off the rails. And God knows what's going to happen, but he's posted bail. He's been arrested. He handed himself in, actually, to a police station and posted bail for some of his bizarre behaviour. Police issued a warrant for him, and he handed himself in. So there's a lot going on, and I think sport is not doing enough. But what should be done? Should there be a more open, transparent system where these high-profile and even lower-profile sports stars get the help they need? Should there be a 3-strike policy? We need to have an open, frank discussion about the best way forward. And I think with the modern day of social media and some people not having a lot of sympathy, because some of these guys are well paid, very well paid, but not all of them are. And I think we need to have a frank discussion about how sports teams and sports organisations look after their athletes. But I'm going to leave that there. Place your comments in the section below, and I'll have some more videos for you soon. We've got an FA Cup game coming up in just over an hour. I'll do a match review of that as I'm posting this video, Brentford-Leicester, and then we can have another discussion on live stream possibly tomorrow about where we go from here as sports fans, as investors in sport, those who play sport, those who are involved with sport, where we go from here, and how we tackle a society problem. I think the prescription medication abuse is a underlying threat that I don't think. Alcoholism and drug misuse, yeah, fine. Prescription medication abuse is there, and I don't think, again, sport is doing enough to look after its athletes. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. I'll have some more videos for you soon, and goodbye for now.